Orange. So, here's going to be the focus. We're going to kind of talk about the overall design, what Microsoft is shooting for on this. And then what I've done is I've added about half a dozen or so slides that go a little bit off topic. The kind of, you know, the little comments underneath, like this is what they really mean. So, and as always, join in. If you have some thoughts or questions or anything, go ahead, no problem. So we're going to talk about is how absolutely freaking wonderful your life will be if you buy all the Microsoft stuff. If you already agree to that and are willing just to give a credit card or something, we can save ourselves a lot of time. You still get the lunch, we'll sell you some product, and we call it a done deal. We'll even tell your office that you were here for the whole hour if you want. So, this is a biggie. When we talk about Office, up until now, and by now, Microsoft really introduced the whole cloud thing, Office 365, about a year and a half, 2 years ago. But the whole idea is we bought a license, and that license allowed us to use that version of the software for as long as we wanted to. So if we bought a copy of Office 2003, we had the CD, we had the license key, and we could go to any one machine and install it, as long as we uninstalled it on the machine it was on previously, till the cows come home. That really annoyed the heck out of Microsoft, because you ended up with all these people running around in 2010, 2011 with Windows XP and Office 2003, and their lives were fine. Everything worked. It was good. Okay? And right around that same time, the economy went to hell. So, that's the issue. So here's what the traditional or perpetual, Microsoft is moving away from that, and they want you to move away from that as well. To the point where they've actually made it more difficult. When Microsoft originally released Office 2013, they changed the rules. They made it so, first of all, you didn't buy it with a disk. If you go to Best Buy and buy Office 2013, you get a key. You have to download the product. And then originally when they first released it, they also made it so you could only install it on one machine, period. That was it. You could not uninstall it and reinstall it on another machine. The exception being that if that machine was actually replaced and it was still on the original vendor's warranty. So if you had a Dell machine, you went to Best Buy and you bought Office, not included with the machine, and then you decided to dump that machine, you could not put Office on another. Really very, very different. And people revolted. People said, no, that stinks, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. And as Microsoft often does, they changed their mind. So Microsoft has now made it back to where it is, where if you buy a copy of Office, you install it on your computer, you can uninstall it and install it on another machine. Now, this is where the companies do the same thing. So companies will go out and they'll buy Office. And this doesn't change if it comes with Office, or what's called the OEM version. That's still the same. Okay? But they're moving more and more to Office 365, the cloud-based. The cloud-based, the key thing on that, is you're renting. So what's happening now is Microsoft wants to get you into the mode of you're paying a monthly or annual fee for the use of the software. Which means that when you get into this arrangement, should you stop that arrangement, you cannot use that software anymore. You're done with it. Okay? Big change. One of the things they're going to be doing, and they haven't announced this officially, but I am 90% sure this is going to happen, is that there's not going to be big releases anymore. I don't think you're going to see an Office 2015. I think it's basically going to settle down into you have Office. And instead of being a big release every 2 years, it's going to be iterative releases, small releases, throughout that 2-year period, so that new features will be added. new options will be added. Why? Because that adds value to having the subscription. Okay, but it's only the subscribers who are going to get that incremental growth, I suspect. Why is that? Again, I can't understate the whole issue with the XP 2003. That really screwed up Microsoft cash flow projections. Now, are they blaming it a little too much on that? Probably, but that's a huge issue. So you're going to see that with Office. You're going to see that with CRM. You're going to see that with Project. You're going to see that with Link. You're going to see that with Skype. You're going to see that with Windows, the desktop. All of those products are moving so that it's much more beneficial to you if you want to maintain the latest version or close to it to go subscription. Okay? So when you see Microsoft doing these things and talking about these things, that's one of the things to keep in the back of your mind. Is that's a huge strategic angle for them. Yeah?
What's your take so far on that concept and the fact that every time they've released a version, they put so many changes in it that we all have a gigantic learning curve? When we'd rather be productive, we've got to learn what Microsoft did to screw up the product in order to make it work.
Well,
continue that with the...
First of all, you've given money to Microsoft, so you've been productive. Thank you very much, and we appreciate that. It's a good point. And you know, the analogy that I've used constantly has been, you've got a jet engine, you've got a biplane. You put a jet engine on a biplane, and you just say, time to get a new plane. Okay. Now, the problem is that, and 2013 is an exception to this. A lot of the feature sets that are added are of questionable value to the overwhelming number of users who, I write letters, I print them out, or I email them. I want to make sure I don't have any dumb typos, and I want to make sure that the print's big enough that someone can read it. Why do I need X, Y, Z features? And Microsoft's response to that is going to be mumble, mumble, mumble. Go with the recurring revenue model. It'll cost you a lot less initially. Now you can get into whether or not, in which case, if you're basically sitting back going, no, I still want my 2003 and my XP, then keep 2003 and XP, or go to Best Buy and buy that one copy of 13. Here's the difference though with 2013. Yes. Tablets, mobile devices. Every version of Office, and this is a Samsung, it's a Windows 8 tablet. I've had it for about a year, a little over a year. Office 2, forget anything before 10. Office 2007, Office 2003 would be horrible on this. Absolutely horrible. And this is a Windows device. This is not a reduced set or an ARM-based or anything along those lines, not Android. This is full-blown Windows. Office 2013 really works well with a tablet. Okay? In addition, as we'll talk about, the integration of documents is significant. So what's happening in the feature set is it's moved a little bit away from the reason you upgrade is so that you can write that letter better. The reason to upgrade is now you can do whatever you want to on any device, anywhere. Okay? So for example, and jumping ahead of myself a little bit, the Office 365 subscription can be used with Office 2011 for Mac. That's the latest. So you can actually install Office on a Mac with this agreement. So you can have Office on your tablet, on your Mac, on your laptop, on your desktop, all in this one agreement. And your documents flow very nicely between them and automatically in the background. So now we're talking about some feature sets that people who are starting to accumulate all these devices and this mobility, it's useful to. Whether or not it's useful to the person who's still, I'm sitting at my desk, I wrote a letter, I want it to be, the print to be big enough, and I don't want typos. That's a different question. 2013 is out. All of the individual pieces are out. If you sign up today for Office 365, you will get the new version. If you were already an Office 365 customer, you will be migrated at some point to the new version. And that migration will be seamless-ish. And actually, we have had probably about a third to half of our clients have done the migration. We had one site that had probably 100% of the desktops had issues. And it took us about half a day or so to reconfigure the desktops. And then we had another site that we originally had, we had to jury rig a solution because they had some weird security that was set up by some other people. And it actually worked much cleaner, but we had to redo it. Other than that, it's been relatively seamless. And the relatively is key. The web portal looks a little bit different. So when we talk about the whole new, when I talk about Office, it's 365, Office 2013, the whole mess. So first of all, devices, a huge, huge issue. Okay, the way the devices work and interact and interconnect with each other. That's huge with this, okay? The cloud. What does the cloud mean? The cloud is not here. It's basically something that's stored somewhere else, whether it be a service that you're using, data that you've got stored up there. We don't need to get it any more fancier than that. Social. This is especially true when we start talking about SharePoint. Microsoft acquired the company Yammer. Everybody knows Yammer, right? I don't know. Yammer was essentially a company that was trying to create social media for businesses to use. So a business can create a SharePoint type environment within their own organization. Obviously, it's aimed a little more larger organizations. The new SharePoint 2013, and I'll show you a demo, or a couple of slide shots of it, actually looks a lot like Facebook in terms of some of its interactions you can create. With good reason, okay? The new scenarios, simplified IT, yay, those are all wonderful things. Okay, so again on the devices, touch support. You know, so how many of you guys have played with Windows 8 at all? Okay, what's your verdict? Up, down? Okay, got a down, I got a hand wave, I got a yay. So you guys don't know, okay. Here's the thing about Windows 8, all right? If you have a touch-enabled device, whether it be a laptop, desktop, tablet, whatever, Windows 8 is pretty cool. It works very nicely. If you don't, so for example, this laptop I've got now is not touch-enabled, but I've got 8 on it. The interface is confusing and it doesn't really give you much value. Okay? The whole way the start menu works, you're not quite sure why they did it. So the approach that I use when I talk with people about 8 is, if you are getting touch enabled, get it. Get Windows 8. It works really nicely. If you already have a touch enabled device that has Windows 8, so you're getting used to it, get Windows 8 on the line. You'll figure it out. It's not that much different. If you've got Windows 7, should you upgrade? It's entirely up to you. Windows 8 is faster. Windows 8 uses less memory. It's faster on the boot. It's faster on the shutdown. It's faster in terms of depending on the applications and whether they're Metro or Windows UI. I'm stuck with that now. But it's not going to be revolutionary. Okay? And one of the things you're going to see, there's support for the Windows Phone, app or iPhones, Androids. You're going to see a lot more software developed for the other platforms over the next year, especially when it comes to link connectivity. So the whole idea that Microsoft is essentially selling you platform-independent services is going to become more and more of an issue. Office on demand. If you go to a machine and it's not yours, but you want to run Word, Office on demand allows you to do that. What that does is essentially sets up a remote desktop instance, which means that this is not the same as a web app. It's running Word, but it's running Word on a remote server. If you use VPN connections and do remote desktop or terminal services, kind of like that, but for specifically the application. What that allows you to do, especially if you're storing your documents up in SharePoint or on SkyDrive, that allows you to go to a machine that does not have Office, that does not have your documents, log on to Office 365, kick off a full version of Word, and work on your documents. And then when you're done, those documents and their changes are on any other device that you're using. Okay? The roaming apps and the cloud by SkyDrive and SkyDrive Pro. Let me show you how one of the examples on the SkyDrive. So this is libraries I've got, and it includes my SharePoint. So I can just get automatically all my SharePoint. You can also go, so by going right here in my Windows Explorer, I can open up any SharePoint documents that I've linked to. It'll automatically allow me to edit them, whether I'm online or offline. There's a copy locally on this machine, and it synchronizes automatically with the cloud. There's a copy on it locally on this machine. They're synchronized automatically to the cloud. I don't think we have a copy on this, but they're synchronized. I can open up the SharePoint documents from my phone in Word. It's a watered down version of Word, but I can still do it, save the changes, and I've got it. I've got full access. SharePoint is one of the features of Office 365. Actually, that's a good point. That's a good point, thank you. So what Office 365 does is it essentially takes an Exchange mailbox for your email with 25 gig of storage up in the cloud. It also includes SharePoint, and SharePoint allows you to build, I use the term communities, SharePoint sites, where you can have shared documents, calendars, workflows, tasks, events, picture categories, all that good fun stuff. It does a lot more than that. SkyDrive is kind of like Dropbox in the sense that you can have your data both locally and up in the cloud. But SkyDrive Pro with Office 365 does much more than that. It also helps you integrate your SharePoint data, as you see. Okay. Also, we have Link. Link is kind of like GoToMeeting, but much more secure. It's actually encrypted and secure, but allows you to have an online meeting with up to 250 people. That can include screen sharing, audio, video. You can record the conversations. I've had 65 or so people on one Link meeting, and we were the only people who actually had a Link account. Everybody else was using the client. That's free, anybody can install that. Okay, and then finally, Office. So an Office 365 subscription, depending upon the plan you get, is a way for you to get Office. The full-blown version, there's also a web version. I stay away from that. I don't think it's as powerful as it needs to be. It allows you to have up to 5 licenses for your devices. So if you look at the enterprise level for a $20 a month subscription gets you the 25 gig mailbox, use of Link, SharePoint, and up to 5 licenses of Office Professional for you. So that means that you can download and install the full version of Office, including Access, Publisher, Word, and I'll show later on that has the list of all the apps, on up to 5 machines. So I can install it on the tablet, on my laptop, if I had a MacBook, a desktop, up to 5 devices. Okay? The home version of Office 365, which is new, actually for 99 bucks a year, does that sound right, John? For $99 a year, you can install Office on up to 5, it's the home and student version, but you get the home and student version on up to 5 machines for 99 bucks a year. And you're always going to get the latest version. So that's not a bad deal. Yeah, the social, as they point out, the news feeds, microblogging, you've got the Yammer. Yeah, social capabilities. It'll also start integrating. It integrates better with the Facebook and the like. I haven't really found much use for that so far. And multi-party high definition video and Skype Federation. What that means is that we can now Skype, and remember Microsoft bought Skype a year and a half ago or so, and this year marks really the first time that Microsoft is starting to integrate it. So depending upon the Office 365 plan, it also includes 60 minutes a month of Skype calls. Now some of you may remember a couple years ago, Microsoft had a pretty neat phone system, which we actually still use, called Response Point. And it was actually, we still get compliments on how our phone system works. If you call us, you'll get an automated attendant. It'll tell you, if you say Bob, it'll transfer to my extension. If you say, you know, Michelle, it'll go to Michelle, so on and so forth. They discontinued it about 2 or 3 years ago. And one of the main reasons they discontinued it is because it wouldn't integrate with anything. It didn't have the unified communication capabilities. Why? Because Microsoft is looking to build on what it's got, both from an Exchange standpoint, from a Link standpoint, from a Skype standpoint. So you're going to see over the next few years more and more functionality and features built in, especially with Link, but also with Skype integrating with it. So the whole idea that a Office could actually run, we're not there yet, probably a year or two away, but could run strictly on Link and Skype and not necessarily having a phone system. I think we're about a year or two from that. So here are the scenarios we run into most frequently. First of all is the old server. We run into situations, especially in the small business world, where a company has a small business server, which was a nice product, the software itself cost between $800 to $1,500 bucks, plus you had to pay a per seat license for it, but it included Exchange, so it included the ability to process email for up to 75 people, 75 licenses. There was an upgrade for 2008, there was another one for 2011, and pretty much Microsoft has said they're not doing it anymore. So the small business server is not going to be maintained. Why? Because it makes more sense just to do the email through Office 365. So instead now Microsoft has what's called Microsoft Windows Server Essentials, which is a low-cost version of server software. It does not include the Exchange. But you can get a server from Hewlett-Packard with some limitations, but you can get a server for as little as about $1,000 bucks, and that includes all the software you need. And then you handle your email through Office 365. So the one comment I would make on this is with Office 2003, XP are gone, okay? They are leaving. Microsoft between this year and next year is dropping all final support on these products. They already have, depending upon how you define the definition, all that good silliness. There are more and more features being introduced between Office 2007, 2010, 2013 that will not be readable or usable on these older versions. Getting maintenance on them is going to be tougher and tougher. The bullet is going to have to be bitten. You're going to have to make the move. Now, one of the things that we found has been that a lot of companies and a lot of people like running the same level of technology into the ground because it works. It works. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. If that's the way you're going to be about it, then it makes sense to simply purchase the software like you did before. Buy the hardware, buy the software, make sure you get the latest, make sure you get the big bang for the buck, and then go with it. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. If, however, you want to avoid having to go through this again, that's where the plans like Office 365 work very nicely. Because you're budgeted, you know how much you're paying, you know for what features, you know what you're getting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's done. You no longer have to worry about when should we upgrade. Collaboration. Everybody talks about collaboration, about how we're going to work together on documents. So one of the things that we do is we create sites that allow us to share and control what we're sharing. That's where SharePoint comes into play, that's where SkyDrive comes into play. So we can create a site on SharePoint, and this is Because strangely enough, this is another fun thing with Microsoft, we haven't been upgraded to the new version of Office 365 yet. So we're still on the old version, which I find mildly entertaining. So what we have is a site here is libraries. We have various document libraries that different people have different access to. This shows us the documents that have been modified the most recently. These shows us documents that have been added most recently. Not everybody has access to them all. This shows us whatever we have as far as a calendar goes. We can also go in for a particular, let's go into vendor documents, and I can automatically say that, hey, this information or that information I want to know about immediately. So if something changes in this folder, email me an alert, because I want to know. If something changes in this folder and I care about it a little bit, email me at the end of the day a summary of all the changes. Or I care about, but not that much, email me each week a list of all the changes, including the links. We can also save prior versions of it, so I can see what's been changed, who changed it. We can see who's actually making the changes. We can make people have to add little descriptions about why they changed it. This is all basic SharePoint stuff. But the nice thing is that we can then use this for our organization, give different people access relatively easily. Some people can only look at the folders, some people can add and change them, some people can create new ones, so on and so forth. Good question. You actually have 3 tiers. So SharePoint, there used to be a product, remember, called Front Page. Okay? And Front Page was a great tool that was essentially a web editor. That's all it was. Well, SharePoint, Microsoft added a bunch of hooks into SharePoint that allowed you to make specific changes to SharePoint pages, and then ultimately just said, the heck with it, we're dropping Front Page as a product, rebranding it as a SharePoint Designer. It's actually available and it's free. If you want the product to behave truly uniquely, and by truly uniquely, beyond this the look and feel is very modular. We have this piece here, this piece here, this piece over here. You're still going to need some kind of design tool to do that. Okay? You have more functionality than you could do before, but it's still if you want anything to be truly customized, you're still going to need some kind of design tool to do that. Okay? And there still is the SharePoint 2013 still has a fee-based product that you actually have to purchase the full license from Microsoft, and it's included with Windows Server. Now we're talking about local. That still is the case as well. So there's still 2 big versions of SharePoint, although this one is more the services type. Although now I think it's called SharePoint Foundation Services for 13, yeah. We can essentially, we can do the video conferencing, and in the video conferencing, I can bring up a Word document and we can all look at it while we're making the changes. And people can say, hey, I'd like to make this change, I'd like to do this, and I can give them control so that they can modify the document as well. It's going to end up stored wherever I tell it to be stored, and I control who has access to it. So very easy to do. So we're collaborating now, and if I wanted to set up, if I want to create a link meeting, it's really hard. I click on the button that says New Link Meeting. And what that does, that creates a traditional Office calendar event, except it includes a link to the link meeting. Okay? And that can be used by someone who does not have link. And if they want to, they'll have 2 options. One is they can download and install what's called the link attendee. If they do that, they're good to go. They can do it all. Or if they don't want to, they can there's also a web browser version, which doesn't install anything. The catch on that is the web browser version, you can only see shared screens. Okay? Whereas the full-blown attendee version, you can see the video, you can hear the audio, you can do the whole 9 yards. Okay? And the attendee's free. Now I will say, one of the things about Microsoft that I love is they can never make things easy. If you join this link meeting and you already have link installed, boom, it'll just say, hey, enter your name, boom, you're in the meeting. If you don't, the instructions for what your options are a little Microsofty, meaning they're convoluted. So usually what I'll do is I'll add a little clip that says, download the attendee ahead of time, here's the link to do it. Following, sites, docs, and discussions. The following essentially says, I want to know when something changed. As I kind of talked about, I showed a little bit in SharePoint, it's fairly easy to do. You right click, alert me. It's actually even easier in the 13 side. So if a discussion is happening online you're interested in, you can signify that you want to follow that discussion. If the whole site is of interest to you, you can do that, or specific documents or folders. So you as the consumer of the information can say, I care about this, tell me when this happens. Which, okay, that takes away from us just surfing it. Did it change yet? Did it change yet? But one of the other things that's kind of cool is the site mailboxes, which is essentially their definition of public folders. So public folders has always been kind of an Achilles heel of Office 365 and its predecessor, BPOS. A public folder is essentially just that. In an Exchange organization, you create a folder of documents, and it can be of email types, it can be calendar, it can be tasks, connections, whatever, that everybody can see, or you can control who can see it. It was a little convoluted to do it in the earlier version of Office 365. Now you can actually create a folder and populate it however you want to and let people see it. So that's really good if you've got corporate level contact lists and you don't necessarily want to do it by a SharePoint site with a contact library. So this is, to me, the biggie. All right. If I go in and I bring up, here's all of the documents that I've recently done. All right, and of these, as you might see, Team Site, SkyDrive, as well as just local computer, it's keeping track of these documents. Where did I last open, which documents did I last open? And I know you can't see it, but it's cool nonetheless. If I bring up my tablet, which also has Office, if I do the same thing here, and I go open, I see the same list. Okay? So I can open up a document, and honestly, I can't tell you which one I was working on, as far as whether I was working on it on that machine or this machine. It doesn't matter, it's the same document. So I can work on this document here, and then take it up and work on it from another document. I don't miss a beat. Same thing here on my Windows phone. Recent documents.
Just out of curiosity, if you were online on your phone making some changes, but then you went to your computer that was offline, you're saying that it's cached or whatever, so now you don't see the changes, so
right.
You make changes again, well, who's going to win then?
Whoever posts, good question. So we get into that eternal quagmire of, we have two people. In SharePoint, one of the things we can do with libraries is we specify keep previous versions. So in other words, if I put a document up there and then it's changed 3 different times, I'm going to have 4 versions of that document up there. I mean, the bottom line is last one in is the most recent document. So if I make a change now online, and then later I take one that's not synced, that's offline, make changes, and it's synchronized, it's going to go up there. Okay? But I can look at previous versions and figure out which, who wins. Now, I will also say, in this particular case, I'm the one who's doing it. So I know hopefully when I'm online or when I'm offline. But if I muck up and I can't remember which is which, I can easily recover and copy the previous version. This is built in. So and this is one where it works much better with 13, works a little bit with 10, not so much with 7. And forget 3, as far as versions of Office. Okay? With 13, it's built in there. If you do an Office 365 deployment that includes the deployment of Office, there's nothing for the end user to configure once their Office is set up. It's done. They can specify when they click on a file open, they'll actually have the option. So I'm just going to do a file open. You'll notice right here, it's my recent documents. What do I have in the SkyDrive? What do we have in the SharePoint? So it's not even, I have to remember to click over to this wacky place. Do you want it, and this is a little bit of a simplistic, do I want it in my personal cloud storage? Do I want it on the company SharePoint site? Or do I want it on my local computer only? I don't have to memorize network places or cache the credentials or anything along those. It's all there. Okay? And for that to be there for tablets, for that to be there for phones, for that to be there regardless of what version of Office. Now, think about this from the standpoint of a company's trying to support a whole bunch of people all over the bloody place with different types of devices. One-stop shopping. You don't have to worry about this guy has Dropbox, this guy has, you know, whatever what's Google's? Drive. You know, I mean, they're all good products and all that kind of, but this is integrated into Office. It's right there. So the question is iPads, iPhones, all that good fun stuff. Microsoft was very aggressive around this time last year talking about doing iOS and iPhones as far as having a version of Office for that. And then right around that time, they made the announcement about how they were coming out with Surface tablets, and remarkably, all words stopped about them developing Apple products, which makes sense from a business standpoint because they don't want to eat into their own sales. Well, when the Surface tablets started coming out and the sales weren't knocking anybody's, not knocking anybody off their feet, they're starting to talk about it again. I will say this, you will absolutely see better client tools for Lync and for SkyDrive this year. Through actually probably multiple releases throughout the year for the Droid and for the Apple line of products. You will also see tighter integration for the Mac version of Office. Those absolutely is a given. They've already, if they haven't announced it formally, then I'm betraying them.
Use SkyDrive on the iPad.
Oh, it's SkyDrive, yes, I'm sorry, but the Office itself.
Okay.
Yeah, mea culpa. The SkyDrive you can get, the SharePoint documents, all that kind of stuff. But what I was referring to, and thank you, I should have been clearer on that, is that seamless integration of here's the solution. And that's actually going to be the topics, I think that we talked about doing it for March. Was it March or excuse me, May or June? This is March, I don't know if we do that. One of the things, we're either doing it for May or June. What we decided to do for a topic is we're all going to be given a device. So Brandon, Steve, Kevin, myself, and we're all going to be given some simple business tasks. And so one's going to have a Droid, one's going to have a Windows tablet, one's going to have an iPad, and we're going to show how best we would look to do that with like 3 or 4, just to show how these devices are different. Because we get a lot of questions about what should I get? And it's like, well, what do you need to do? And how complicated is it and all that kind of thing. They're going to give me the simple device, whatever. I think Etch-a-Sketch, was that the?
You get the Apple.
Like what?
You get the Apple.
Oh. I don't want it. No, Apple's a very good product. If the cloud is down, civilization ends as we know it, so it doesn't really matter. Okay? Can we move on to another topic? I find this one disturbing. Okay, but actually it's a great question. So if the cloud is down, first of all, you've synchronized all of your data using SkyDrive. So you have access. So you're sitting there feeling a little Amish, but you're sitting there and you've got access to all your SharePoint data as of the last synchronization, all your SkyDrive data, You've got Office there, so you're able to do all of those things. You can also use email in the sense that you can see what email you had as of the last time and start composing really good, goodbye letters because the internet's gone, so the world's coming to an end. But it might come back in one last burst, something along those lines. So you've still got all that capability. And then the nice thing is that when you're back online, boom, automatic synchronization. So
Full Office, they actually.
full Office. This is the same program as if you bought it. Actually, there's a couple other features, but it's for most part full Office as if you bought it and installed it.
But
Okay.
at what level are you talking about? I thought, when I was looking at 365, the first couple of levels didn't include any on-computer
Right.
applications.
It depends on the plan. So if you buy the $4, which is email only, it's email only. If you buy the $8, which includes SharePoint and Link, you can install Link, but that's it. And we'll get into the prices on the plans in a bit. Okay, but it depends on what you subscribe to. Now, did you have somebody over here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
What happens if you decide for whatever reason you want to cancel your subscription to 365?
What?
With your
You're funny.
historical data, your email, all that stuff. And I know that you said it comes with a 5-user license.
If you get with the full Office, you get 5 user licenses for your devices for you. Yes. So that's a good question. So what do? I'm doing a lot of those are good question things. And whenever somebody usually says those at meetings, I think, you don't think that. But for everybody's question but one, I think they're all good questions. I'm not gonna tell you who the one that had the dumb one was, Kevin. But here's basically what happens is, first of all, the only thing, what you need to do, if you have the stuff downloaded to your SkyDrive, to your local drive, you have a copy. So it's not going away. All right? Now, as far as your email goes, that's like any other email service that you change or you move. You need to take responsibility for migrating that somewhere else. And that can be as simple as simply going into Outlook, exporting your email, setting up your new email, and then importing it. Or there's a whole bunch of other things that you can do as well. Now, if you're an organization, so for example, we're moving an organization right now that just has about 35 or so users, and we're not doing the actual migration for another 2 weeks. Yeah, and we've already migrated their email over to Office 365, and we just now do little migrations of what's changed. So we do iterative migration. So there's a lot of tools that are available that can help you move
As
forward.
far as like Excel documents, Word documents, all that.
Those are all yours, as long as you've got a copy. So if you're storing them in the cloud, use SkyDrive or whatever to make sure you have a local copy. So, yeah.
Yeah, documents like, you have to embed everything and make sure they're accessible. In other words, if you link a picture into one document, it's not embedded, and you look at it on your tablet, you may not see that.
It depends on if you embed. So if you link or embed, link essentially means it points to wherever it came from. Embed means it's actually contained in the document. I believe if you link it and it is still, if it's in the same folder or in the same folder tree, I believe that will work. But otherwise, you would have to embed, yeah.
Okay, digging that up, I should probably, your question about the, what do you do if you cancel the service? If you're using like Office 365 and you have a plan that has the included Office license or whatever, you cancel that, that copy of Office will deactivate itself. So you have to make sure you have another version of Office. You go buy it from your card with Best Buy or whatever, but it does check back with the mother base and saying that, oh yeah, you don't have a subscription anymore. And I think it checks every couple of days, a week, or
Yep.
something like that. And even if it is expired, you see this giant red bar at the top saying unlicensed or something like that. You can still open up your documents, you just can't modify them. In the case of Outlook, you can see the existing emails that are in there, but you can't type a new email. So it's things like that that get deactivated if you no longer have the subscription. I figure I'd mention that on the topic of cancellation.
Great.
I wanted to show this. Unfortunately, I don't have it blown up, and I apologize for that. This is actually a sample of the new SharePoint as far as site goes, and it's very hard to see here. But you see, you have news feeds, you have essentially people commenting on people's statements, all that kind of thing. Very Facebook, and that's a big part of what they're looking to do. Good question. So what kind of storage do you have for Office 365? First of all, you have 25 gig of email storage per user. That's hard and fast. You can actually get some additional for online archiving storage, but the 25 gig for mailbox is hard and fast. You then get, I think, 1 gig per user per month for SharePoint, but that's aggregate per user, and I think additional space is 20 cents per gig per month for beyond that. SkyDrive comes with 7 gig per user per month. So an individual user can put up to 7 gig on the SkyDrive. I believe to add an additional 50 gig is $25 a year for a user, and an additional 100 gig is $50 per user for a year. So real quick here, these are the 3 types of Office 365 plans. The home and business, 1 to 10 users. The mid-sized business, this is new, which is Office 365. This is theoretically priced for $11,250, and then the enterprise, which is the 250 plus. I'm not crazy about this guy, small business for the 1 to 10 users. There are some significant things you can't do and some significant restrictions as far as support you get, but it's there, and I want to show, blah, 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 we're wonderful. So here's the small business premium is $12.50 per month per user. That includes the licenses for Office. But as you can see, it doesn't give you don't have email archiving capabilities, online archiving. You don't have phone support from Microsoft on it. You can't do the additional as far as email. You can't integrate with your Active Directory. But you've got a bunch of other capabilities. $12.50 a month, that gets you the Office, web apps, mobile apps, the link, the SharePoint, all that good fun stuff. The mid-sized business, this is new. This gets you everything, but including Active Directory. You still can't do the email archiving, legal hold, unlimited email storage as far as some of the archiving stuff going on. You still don't have the integration as far as voicemail support, but it's only $15 a month. And again, this is new. All right, and then finally we've got the enterprise, which honestly, most of the companies that we work with, and we work with probably about 15 or so, maybe 20, I don't know, are using this in some form or another. And again, it's $20 a month. This includes the Active Directory, the Yammer, full support, email archiving, all that kind of fun stuff. You cannot mix and match. And I was actually out at Redmond in December when they rolled this out to the Cloud Champion partners first. And the one thing that I was really annoyed by, and I want you to tell you that Microsoft listened to me, they listened, they were very polite, and then they ignored it. But is if someone is on one plan, can they migrate to another? And the answer is no. Okay, which is a little annoying. You gotta make your decision. Now, there's ways to get around it, but they're time consuming. So, a couple other real quick things while John makes his way up here. Project, any Microsoft Project users? You're seeing a lot of activity that is starting to happen to put that online. They already did this with CRM, so now there's going to be Project Online as well. It's actually been out there since around August as a beta, where you can have Project Online. It goes along with 365. You've also got the same kind of desktop subscription capability as well. So that's on its way. And Visio, heading the same way. Okay, all of the Office products are now going into the subscription model.
Does it apply?
Yeah. Good question. So when we talk about either HIPAA or SOX or any of those guys, there are actually configurations that you can do to the Office 365 in terms of security that are specifically tailored to those types of organizations. Yeah. So if you go with the $20 a month, which includes the Office, so you can have, as I do, I have a full copy of Office installed on this machine, a full copy of Office installed on my tablet. I've got a desktop at my office that I've got full copy of Office installed, and I've got another laptop at home. So 4 devices, 4 licenses of Office, 1 subscription.
And it's all based off of the Active Directory?
Well, it is integrated with it, but it's really based off of what's up in the cloud. So,
Okay.
cool.
As far as like active sync devices, like your Android tablets, your iPad and all that, all the ones that use active sync, infinite.
Yeah.
There's no cap on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. So all your phones, whether it be Droid, iOS, all those mobile devices that have active sync, there's no licensing on those because they just work. There are tons of different levels of the program, down to just email on up to its Office, email, link, SharePoint, and all points between.
Bob Coppedge, everybody.
Yay.